So unfortunately, I have to follow all that, and of course, I'm going to read because, well, I don't do that well anyway. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, to the world, the man was Ken Kelly. To me, he was my dad. And the reality is that as a kid, I probably didn't appreciate really all the things he had done. I mean, yeah, sure, I knew about, he was in engineering, and I knew about, that he'd done a lot for housing, but I didn't know it all. He was a man, though, that did teach me hard work and the value of hard work. He taught me about always being ready. He was a man that was always ready to help me with my math homework. Unfortunately, he was so brilliant and so up on math, he would try to explain stuff at a level kind of up here, and I was really underneath there. So I pretty much would go ahead and listen for a while and realize that this is up to me, and then I'd go finish it and figure it out, and I actually think that was his goal anyway. And he was sharp. But most of all, he was the man that taught me that anything is possible. I have done things that fortunately, I never saw a barrier. I just thought, if you need to do it, you just do it. And I did. And I was told that when I was a young man, my parents wanted to teach me to ride a bike, and I put up a fuss against having training wheels because I didn't want no stinking training wheels. So my dad, I'm sure with a little objection from my mom, took off the training wheels, and guess what? I learned to ride a bike. Then, when I was 14, I've always had am I doing this right? I've always had an infatuation with aviation. I've always loved flying. I've always been fascinated by it. I've always thought it was something I wanted to do. So when I was 14, I wanted to go learn to fly a plane. And my dad and mom, truthfully, neither of them said, "Oh, no, you can't do that. That's too dangerous. You're too young. You shouldn't be thinking about flying." No, my dad went out and found a camp at 14 where I could spend the entire week learning to fly. First of all, the liability of that whole idea of a 14-year-old flying on their own is insane. I'm sure you couldn't do that today, but I had the most glorious week of my entire life. It's all because of Dad. Thanks, Dad. It was something. And to this day, those who really know me know that flying is my thing, and it will always be my thing. So, anyway, after I went to this camp for a week, I got to change a page. I spent the entire week flying. And what was really cool about this, again, remember, I'm 14 years old. We're living in a motel out on Pure Blossom Highway. Does anybody know where Pure Blossom Highway is? It's out in the middle of frickin' nowhere, and particularly back in 1972 or so. It was worse than that, and we're staying, a bunch of 14-year-old kids staying by themselves in this thing, and there was a diner at the end. We'd go out and feed ourselves, and we'd go out to the airport and fly all day. It was awesome. It was really awesome. And, if it wasn't for my dad's belief in, teaching me that anything is possible, that would have never happened. And truthfully, today, one of my problems with life is that things have gotten so tight that you can't let kids be kids anymore. You can't let them learn and enjoy. But Dad, I'm sure if he were here today, would say, maybe that's a problem I need to work on as well. He may need his help. The other thing that was interesting about Dad is he never talked about what he had done, ever. He basically just did his thing and quietly did his thing and never boasted about he was important for this or that or the other thing. And it wasn't until I was in high school I was with the counselor saying, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I don't know. So they gave me some books to look through. And I'm flipping through this book, and lo and behold, there's my dad.
Oh my God.
There was this picture in his office that he never explained what it was for. It was him standing behind all this stuff that made him look very, scientific. And, he's an electrical engineer, and that was his passion and one of the main things he did. And the thing that was interesting is that Dad never mentioned what that picture was for, and I'm sure I asked. He never said it was in a book or something, but that's what he did. The other thing about Dad is that he also went out of his way not to make a big deal about things. He just said that life would work out. So when we moved into Northridge, one of the things that happened, and I think somebody mentioned, is that my dad had to have his assistants or friends buy our houses. Our house in Gardena was an all-white neighborhood. We were the only black family. In fact, the guy from AP just recently called me about that picture, which is in your program. Thank you. And he asked, was asking about, how that happened. And when we moved to the neighborhood, my dad basically wrote a letter to everybody in the neighborhood and said, hey, we're just people. We want to just get along and live. Why don't we see how it works out? And guess what? Many of those people became lifelong friends. There was never any pushback or anything once we were there. It was different. But the other thing is when we moved into our house in Northridge, my dad never mentioned to me that our next door neighbor was a guy named the Torrances, the family. The Torrances were really good friends with Mayor Sam Yorty. You remember him?
Yeah.
One of the biggest bigots that ever walked on this planet. I'm sorry. That's a fact. He really is. And the Torrances were as well. And my dad never said, hey, we're living in this white neighborhood and you got to be kind of cool around some of these people. They're probably don't like you. No, he let us be kids. And guess what? After years of being around these people, they became my biggest fans, the Torrances. I mean, this world is not about fences. This world is about just getting to know one another and finding out that we all have the same thing in common. And that if we all get together, we can fix anything. Yeah. So, one of the things that I know is a fact is that because of my dad and his work in electrical engineering, so for those of you who don't know, he was involved in the antennas that they used for the Apollo mission to the moon. That was my dad. He also, before that though, you guys know telecommunication? That you bounce this thing off a thing in the sky and you talk to somebody in England? Because that's kind of what I got out of it. That was my dad. And the thing that I really did not know until recently was that the character Franklin, indirectly my dad was involved in the character Franklin that the mom, they're here, yeah, the Glickman family is here as well, that were also involved. For the African American character in Charlie Brown, his name is Franklin, that was my dad and the girls. Yeah. I didn't know that either. So anyway, really, we'd like to thank you all for being here. Thank you for coming out to celebrate the life of a man that really affected us. And I think he left a serious mark on this world and a very good mark on this world. And I think if we all work to continue his work, we can make this place a better place. So